In this video I am going to look at using the FMC in order to create a very simple flight plan from airport A to airport B, passing 2 or 3 waypoints along the way and then intersecting the ILS approach as in the previous video to make a successful and safe landing at our destination airport. It will not include any input altitudes and speeds, etc. Those I will decide as the pilot along my route. The first thing that I'm going to do is to use the map view in FSX and think of the flight plan that I need. On this occasion I'm going to fly from Cardiff, EGFF, to Birmingham, EGBB, and I'm going to use 3 waypoints in between: BCN, Brecon, GST, Gloucester, and HON, Honolly, which is very close to the ILS intercept point for Birmingham. So my required flight plan is EGFF to BCN to GST to HON to EGBB, and it is this data that I first need to enter into the FMC in order to create the flight plan required for this particular flight. Okay, I'm now in the cockpit of the A320. I have preset it to line up with runway 30 at Cardiff for our takeoff, and I've used the quick settings to put the aircraft in a ready to fly state. Now I'm going to need to look at the left hand FMC, which is this one here. The first thing I need to do is to press this init button, initialization. This will then ask me a from and to airport. I know I now wish to go from EGFF to EGBB. I type in using the keypad here, EGFF, too many F's there, EGFF / to EGBB. EGFF to EGBB. Enter that into the from and to slots. I'm now going from EGFF to EGBB. Next, I need to enter my actual flight plan. Press the F plan button. It shows me that I'm going to commence at EGFF, finish at EGBB, with a flight plan with a flight plan discontinuity in between. That is because at the moment the FMC has no idea what I want to do between this airport and this airport. But I do, because the first waypoint I wish to go to is Brecon, BCN, BCN. If I now enter that where the discontinuity is, it gives me an option of 3 Brecons or 3 BCNs, because worldwide there are 3 known beacons with that identifier. It will always put the closest one to you first, so that is the one that I need. I'm now going EGFF to BCN. Discontinuity to EGBB. The second waypoint I want is GST. GST. On the scratch pad showing GST. Enter that where it says flight plan discontinued. And the third one I want is HON. When I can find it, enter that. The first one again. EGFF, BCN, GST, HON, discontinuity, EGBB. I don't wish to put anything else in here, though I could, if I so wished, put a star or a SID, or depending which end of my flight it is, a standard instrument departure or a standard arrival. I'm not going to do that on this one, so I just now need to get rid of this discontinuity, because I only want these points. Press this button, bottom right, clear. CLR comes up on the screen. Enter the CLR, which is the information you wish to enter, next to the flight plan. I now have my route: EGFF, BCN, GST, HON, EGBB. We're now almost ready to fly. Now, before we make any attempt at takeoff, let's look at the main displays in front of us. On this map view here, we will now see a green line. This line is showing part of the route that I have just entered into the FMC. This is Cardiff, and though it's not particularly clear at the moment, that is Brecon, BCN. Now you'll remember from the previous video that we can alter the scale of this: 10, 20, 40, 80, 120, 200 miles. So if I click this button here, left or right mouse, I will see more or less of that route. And I will see it in more or less detail. So I can select whichever is best for me at the time. I will leave it set at 40 miles at the moment, and that will give us the distance roughly from Cardiff to Brecon visible. If I think about this now a little before we take off, you can see that I am presently heading 300 degrees, which is the runway heading of Cardiff runway 30. And Brecon is over here at approximately 360 degrees. So in order for me to reach Brecon, I am going to have to take off at 300 degrees and at some point turn towards Brecon, to my right. Once we are airborne, we'll look at exactly how we can do that. But to recap, I'm going to take off heading 300, climb and turn towards Brecon. Now, as in the previous video, I'm going to set some pre-takeoff information into my autopilot. I'm first of all going to select speed with the right hand click of the button, and I'm going to have my climb speed at 240 knots. I'm then going to set a heading, right click again. It is already set for 300, which is the heading of the runway that I am presently on, and I have an initial climb altitude of 7,000 feet. I'm going to alter that on this flight, and I'm going to make that 12,000 feet. And I'm going to set a vertical speed climb when I'm actually in flight. At the moment, this will not do anything because the autopilot is not presently switched on. I presently also have flaps 1 setting. That will be fine. In the previous video, I said to set the throttle for climb for takeoff. The next setting is FLX. I think it stands for something like flight execution or something. I'm not too sure at the moment. But it will actually be better to set the throttle to the second position, FLX. And when we have climbed at a certain time, there will be a flashing display in front of us which will tell us to reduce the throttle to climb. This is in connection with noise abatement rules over airports and also fuel economy. So we'll watch that as we take off. But I'm going to push the levers 2 clicks to FLX for takeoff. It's just worth mentioning at this particular point that I have already pre-fueled the aircraft, pre-loaded it with a light fuel and light load for our short flight to Bern. Now let's look at this main display once again before takeoff. We can see part of our route here. But you also remember that on here, on this left hand knob, I can select various views: plan, arc, nav, VOR or ILS. Let's see what happens when I click this button. It's presently in arc, nav, VOR, ILS. Back to VOR, back to air, and back to arc, and over to plan. Now, as I've now selected plan, I can see more of my plan, and how much of that I see will depend on this range. It's presently showing 40-mile range, so I can see from Cardiff to Brecon, BCN, and part of the next section of my route. If I now alter the range, I can see even more. And although the scale becomes smaller, I can actually see the entirety of my route. Now we may need to switch one or both of these instruments, these knobs as we are flying, to see exactly which part of the route we want to see in detail. More of that once we're airborne. Okay, we're now ready for takeoff. I'm going to climb out of the airport, staying on the runway heading until I've climbed to about 5,000 feet. Look down at the throttle setting, brakes on, advance 2 clicks, climb, FLX. Engines are now spooling up, release brakes, and we're in our takeoff mode. Monitoring my speed. $100. 120. 140. Rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Switch autopilot 1 on. Aircraft is now under control of the autopilot. Select rate of climb 1,900. And to reduce that slightly to 1,800 feet. $200 knots. Flaps up. If you look at this instrument here now, you will see lever climb flashing. Bring the levers back to the climb position. Engines will reduce. Okay, lever is in climb position. Engines have reduced in power, and we continue our climb. Just passing through 3,300 feet. External view, We're now in steady climb, Cardiff Airport directly behind us, and we're climbing to around 5,000 feet. Just now passing 4,400 feet, a little bit of turbulence, settling down to smooth flight again. And if we look at our map view, here is Cardiff. I'm heading out, and Brecon is to my right. I need at a point now to turn towards Brecon. Out from Cardiff, turn towards Brecon. Switch this to a different view, and I will see more or less of that route. Here's Brecon. This is my present direction. I need to turn right to Brecon. In this particular view, I now have the compass points clearly visible as well. I'm now at 6,000 feet, and I'm going to pause the flight. Now I've paused the flight so that we can just think for a moment or two as to what we need to do next. I am presently heading at 300 degrees. Brecon is to my right, BCN, and slightly behind my present position. And it is at a heading of approximately 40 degrees. 360 degrees or 0, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 60 degrees, and so on. So I need to turn the aircraft to head towards 40 degrees approximately, to intercept Brecon. Going back to my autopilot setting, the setting is presently set for 300. If I manually alter this to a heading of 40 degrees, then the aircraft will turn to that new heading. That is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to alter the heading from its present 300 to approximately 40 and let the aircraft turn and watch the aircraft's position relative to the BCN waypoint. Alright, we now have the view of both the autopilot and our main display instrument. We're going to alter this now using the scroll wheel to set this to 40 degrees. Nothing will happen immediately because I have to make this button active. I have plenty of time to think about what I'm doing. Right, I now have that at 40 degrees. If I right click it, it becomes active. And the aircraft will now turn. You will see the compass rose here rotating as the aircraft turns. And if I switch this to a different view, that is where I wish to intercept BCN. Here I am. Let's watch it as it turns to intercept this point. If necessary, I can alter my heading. Go through a little bit of turbulence at this point. The aircraft is still turning. I'm now heading towards 40 degrees and the aircraft is levelling out. Brecon is still now further to my right. Let me rotate this one now to a few more degrees, and what I want to try and do is to get the solid green line to intercept BCN. Just let the aircraft turn gently and until I get those intercept points clearly showing, on that instrument. I now have my green line, which is my present routing, intercepting BCN, which is the waypoint that I require. We'll now let the aircraft fly until we are directly overhead the BCN waypoint. Now whilst it is doing that and heading towards BCN, you will see up here it gives me a lot of information about it. It says BCN is at a heading of 68 degrees 068 and it is 10.6 miles from me, 10.5, 0.4. You can see this now counting down. 10 miles, 9.9. When this becomes 0, I will be directly over the BCN waypoint. And this will then change to show me the next waypoint. It will show GST, Gloucester, and it will show me how far away it is and what heading it is on. We'll just watch this over these last few miles. Now, when we finally reach the BCN beacon, I'm going to pause the simulation again and we'll look at an alternative way of tracking to the next waypoint. Now have 1 nautical mile to go. 0.5. 0.2, 0.1, 0. And you will now see that the GST waypoint is showing 79 degrees at 41 miles away from us. I'm now going to pause. Okay, we now need to find our next waypoint, GST, Gloucester. Let's look back up here at the autopilot system once again. If we look over the heading display, it is presently flying at 067 degrees heading. There is also here the letters LAT, latitude. Now because we've got the information put into the FMC, we can, if we wish, allow the autopilot to link with the FMC and follow the flight plan automatically. On this particular one, it will only follow the latitude. It will not follow altitudes because we have not put any of those in. But when the FMC is fully operational, it will follow both latitudinal directions and vertical distances. What I'm going to do is select with the button below it, I believe it's a left click, and I want a little yellow dot to appear under latitude. When that happens, the aircraft will automatically turn to the next latitude heading for the next waypoint. The numbers will disappear and a little yellow dot will appear telling me that it is following the directions directly from the FMC and not the pilot. I'll now put it back into live and let's see what happens. Okay, we are still heading at 067. I'm now going to left click the button. The latitude indicator illuminates and the aircraft is now turning and it's going to track the line directly, automatically to the next waypoint, which is GST. Once again, if I look at the corner of the instrument, it is telling me it is now at a heading of 79 degrees, 37 nautical miles from. It will count this down until I reach the next point. So I am now flying under FMC and autopilot directions completely automatically to my next waypoint. Now I will let the aircraft continue along this flight path until we get close to the next waypoint, and then I will bring the video back on station. Doing this will save us a little bit of time in the actual flight as a video recording. We have 29 miles to go. The Severn Bridge is now showing just below the aircraft. In fact, we can now see both the original Severn Bridge and the second Severn crossing. I am now back in the cockpit view and I am getting close to GST. I have 9.8 miles to go. Now, if I don't do anything else, when the aircraft reaches GST, it will automatically turn left towards HON, Honolulu. But I want to look now more closely at this map. I'm going to alter the range. If we look at Honolulu here, it is very close to my final destination airport, and I will have very little time and distance in order to line up for that runway. So as I'm doing this partly manually and partly automatic, I am going to change my heading now, and I'm going to fly straight ahead in a long curve to the airport. Now let's look at this heading. If I use the scroll wheel, only the scroll wheel, I can change the heading. The aircraft won't do anything. So I want to set this at 80 degrees, which is my present heading, but I want to remove the latitude button. So click with my left mouse, the right mouse button. You will see that the latitude marker has disappeared. It is now heading to where I want it to go, not the FMC. If I now look again at these buttons, change the routing, this is where it would have gone towards Honolulu, but it is now continuing to 80 degrees. Now, I am now going to reduce my altitude. I'm going to dial in 5,000 feet, and I'm going to dial in a minus 1,800 feet per minute. You will hear the engines decrease, and the aircraft will now descend from 12,000 feet to 5,000 feet. I am now descending through the light cloud, still on my heading that I have set for 80 degrees. And I'm going to continue my descent until I reach 5,000 feet. Now whilst I'm descending, let us look here again. EGBB is my final destination airport. It is therefore to my left, approximately 45 degrees to my present position. Now I'm going to have to enter some information for the ILS approach for Birmingham on my chosen runway. Okay, looking at the FMC again, I need to go to the RAD nav button, radio navigation. I need to enter the ILS frequency and the course. The ILS frequency for Birmingham is 110 0.10.
Turn right, 090, that's 926.
Sorry, made an error there. 0. 110.10. Enter that into the ILS frequency.
1662 with you, 5,000.
110.10. It now wants the course, which is 330 for runway 30. Runway 33. Enter that into the
926, turn right heading 180, descend and maintain 5,000.
Right, you will remember now from the previous video, select LS, ILS, select LS, and we will get a different display. This is ultimately going to show me my ILS bars and my glide slope bars. But I'm presently not close enough to the airport for that to occur. This will change as I near the airport.
180 United 1662.
So as I continue to fly, set this back to a map view to suit my needs and a range.
Approach 4561, 5,000.
AC 4561, near approach, get it.
Okay, I switch the LS off at the moment until I get closer to it. Here is EGBB. I'm going to have to make a turn shortly. I'm going to head to the left, make a big arc back to 330 degrees.
E4668, turn right heading 090.
Okay, LS on, LS selected once again. I'm going to now turn to approximately 360 degrees.
Pittsburgh quarter 139 with you in turn.
Quarter 139, near approach, get it.
Which will give me a final 30-degree turn to the runway of Boom. We're also going to reduce to 2,000 feet. And I'm going to reduce my speed to
4668, turn right heading 180.
175.
Approach 125.5.
Alright, so 180, 155.
AC 4561, contact approach 125.5.
Okay, I've now picked up my localizer bars and I've selected localizer button, and the autopilot is now tracking the localizer. Shortly we should see here the glide slope indicator. We may still be a little bit far away from the airport for that to happen.
180 and over to the front.
Okay, the localizer bars are coming close together, and now the glide slope indicator has just illuminated, and I am 18 miles from the runway. 110.10 setting, 330 degrees. The ILS is being gently tracked and the aircraft being brought gently into the centerline position. This diamond is now beginning to fall, so I now know that I have captured both the ILS and the glide slope. Once I know that is the case, I click the approach button. It will now track both of these beams.
TT right position. Hold.
Now I'm going to reduce my speed to 165, flaps 1,
140 on the turn, clear.
it's now looking good, centre line here, glide slope becoming centralised. When this reaches the centre beam, I will reduce my speed and put gear down, and increase flaps, slow my speed, aim for a touchdown of approximately 145 knots, full flaps. This is now centralising, 160 degree speed, flaps, gear down, increase flaps to 2. Centralised on the glide slope, centralised on the ILS approach. External view, flaps 2, gear down. I'm sorry, when I said it was 18 miles, it's not 18 miles, it says 1BM, IBM. That is the ILS marker coding for Birmingham. Sorry about that. Okay, Birmingham Airport is now just coming into view here. The runway is directly ahead of me, and I am now all set for a touchdown. Final adjustments to speed and flaps, touchdown, reverse thrust, apply brakes, we come to a safe stop at Birmingham. Reduce speed, 150, flaps, 3. Runway lights now showing here, the Varsy lights. I should get 2 whites and 2 reds for the perfect angle of approach. Straight on centre line, straight on centre of the glide slope. Runway ahead, flaps full. Reduce speed to 145. Runway straight ahead. And now all of the final approach is in place. Autopilot will call out my altitudes on final approach. It will then call retard, pull the levers back, apply reverse thrust, and apply brakes as necessary to come to a safe stop on the runway and turn on to the taxiway.